Hey you, come, gather around the campfire, and welcome to the party. This is Party Chat, a JRPG podcast where we talk about everything that we love in the world of JRPGs and other Eastern titles. I am one of your hosts, Cameron Hawkins, and with me, as always, is my party partner, Kevin Kenson. Kevin, how you doing today?
I am doing well. We are recording this right before what's going to be a very busy middle of the week. TGS is going on. There's going to be all kinds of news dropping very soon. So I'm kind of enjoying this little lull before. Yeah, I'm getting some stuff done, but the rush is not in me just yet. It will be very soon.
Yeah. There's a lot happening. Right now we got a state of play coming tomorrow, and that's going to be interesting. I don't really know what to expect from that. And we're going to talk about all of that and more during our main episode of the podcast, which will be our 40th. We'll hit number 40. Um, but we're here today because, Kevin, you have played and finished Final Fantasy Tactics, the Ivalice Chronicles. Uh, how you how you feeling about it? How you feeling about it? I know this game means a lot to you. I know that you we're incredibly excited about this. Thank you to Square Enix for sending us a code to play it. And yeah, give us all your thoughts.
Yeah. So I just real quick background. Tactics is one of those games that I consistently put on like some of my favorite of all time. It is consistently in my top three. Not always. I'm one of those people where my list changes whenever you ask, but like it is an up there game. Certainly a formative title for me. There was a time where I was basically yearly doing a fresh playthrough of the PS1 version. And then I haven't actually touched it in a while. I played it when it was still fairly new on the PSP, and I haven't done like a proper playthrough since then. So this is, it's been a little bit. So it was actually very interesting playing this remaster for a couple reasons. Or remake, remakester, whatever term you want to use. Ivalice Chronicles is what they're calling it. It was very interesting playing this because it was a mixture of like, okay, like I'm absolutely seeing where the differences are. I know this game well enough that I know what they're changing, but I also haven't experienced it in so long that this is my first time kind of being able to see it a little bit with some more age on me, you know. Uh, Overall, really enjoy it. There's a couple things I definitely want to talk about where maybe the rose tinted glasses of age and what got maintained in this remake. I'm kind of like, oh yeah, actually, this is a little weird. Like I'm used to this, but I can see how this might be off putting to some folks. And a lot of stuff where I think, as far as remake specific goes, I think they honestly did a fantastic job. I think the biggest takeaway for me really is I find it very interesting what they chose to change and update, and what stuff where they were like, nope, we're leaving this as is. Deal with it. uh, so I guess to start, let's just do a quick breakdown of everything changing in this remake. There's a couple of very obvious things. Obviously, the visual overhaul, which is one that I got to say grew on me quite a bit. I talked about this a bit back when we did the hands-on demo, where you know a lot of remakes sometimes go into the awkward territory of like pixel softening and going for this look that's just kind of a midpoint between the old look and trying to make it cleaner in a way, and it just never works. It's just not an aesthetic I care for. And the very first time we saw this game revealed and they did the like side by side, like, oh, you can play classic or you can play remastered. The remake version, I was just kind of like, I don't know, guys. Like, are we smoothing this? What is this? And it was partially because it was such a small image, in a trailer that you're seeing, which is never going to be the same as like a full screen experience on your own. And so now, having been able to play it, no, it looks great. It still actually does have like a pixel aesthetic. There's not like weird smooth lines. They're just considerably smaller pixels, making everything up. So it does create that more kind of full looking image in some ways. And I think it looks great. I think a good point of comparison actually is what they did with Tactics Ogre. That I feel like I'm going to do a few comparisons to that because that's another big, tactical RPG made by some of the same people that got a remaster a few years back. And in that one, they kept the pixels for character models, but they added this like outline to characters that wasn't pixelated, and so that created that pixel smoothing look and just didn't look great. And they did not do that here in Tactics, which I'm very thankful for. Visually, I think they did a great job. Another aspect of that is that now this game is fully voice acted, and that's another thing that can be kind of hit and miss with me, especially English voice acting. You and I have talked about this a few times where I do tend to favor playing games in Japanese because it's easier for me to like kind of tune out if people are sounding a little over the top melodramatic or anything. Like it's just not a thing that works well for me normally. I chose to play this one in English based on, what we had seen so far and what we experienced in the demo we played at PAX, and uh, it was great. I actually think across the board, like all voice acting, there's always going to be one character that maybe stands out a little bit or something. But I think consistently all the main cast sounds really excellent. I think they did a good job of capturing kind of what I thought these characters would sound like, which is always good. That was another thing that happened with Tactics Ogre, where there are a couple characters where I'm like, that's the voice we went for this guy? That's what we thought? Okay, sure. Did not have that experience at all with this one. There were maybe a couple that were like different than maybe how I envisioned, but they still felt appropriate, like it worked out really well. Two performances in particular I want to highlight. Obviously, Ben Starr, that was one we were talking about going into it. We have loved his previous work and stuff. Clive, primarily from FF16. He voices a character called Dice Darg in this remake. And Dice Dark is a very different character from Clive. He has a decent amount of screen time. He's not like a main character, but he comes up fairly often. And where Clive was kind of this impassioned character who, it's very much the sort of like the power of human will type trope. Dice Dark is like the cold, manipulative, calculating kind of thing. And he has a little bit like, you could definitely tell it's Ben because he does a little bit of that kind of breathy thing he does in a lot of roles. You hear it in Verso, you hear it in Clive, you hear it here with Dice Dark. But it absolutely is like a different implementation of that where that kind of cold, dismissive, calculating behavior really comes off well in a way that I enjoyed. And then the other voice actor I want to praise, because I wasn't sure about this going in, and now like having spent time with it, Joe Pitts as Ramza, primarily because I think something he does really well in this game is he adjusts the tone of his voice throughout the game very well. At the start of the game, there's this little bit of kind of like Ramza's unsure of himself. He's a bit of a dreamer, kind of just, like a little more wistful. And as the game goes on, especially in the closing chapter, he's just saying shit with his full chest. Like so much more clearly. You can really hear the difference of where, like, yes, this is the same character. He's using the same kind of voice, but there's kind of a confidence and a sense of tone that is different with where it starts and where it ends that I really liked.
Fun fact, because I just looked it up, that is his third voice acting role ever.
I was curious about that because I to be honest, I had to look up who did the voice because I also just don't know voice actors very well. I don't keep up with that as much, but I wanted to make sure I said the right name as part of this review. Yeah, what else has he done? Because I thought he did a great job.
So he did Chris in Xenoblade Chronicles 3, and he did Yulian in the first Berserker Kazan.
Okay. Yeah, that's it. And I've only played one of those two. So, yeah, I thought he did a great job. And the cast in general is good. But I think those are the two that, again, Ben Starr, just because we're familiar with his other work. And then Ramza is the main character. You're spending a lot of time with him. And I think he just did a real good job with that kind of character evolution as time goes by. So, yeah, voice acting, great. Mechanically, there's a lot of changes going on. Some of this I think is very straightforward, just like, yep, this is cool. I like that. Great change. They did an update to kind of the combat timeline system where you can see, the order people are taking actions in, and then you'll see how that updates with like using certain abilities that take charge time. So it's like, oh, I know if I use this move, I'm going to act in the next 3 moves, or I'm going to act in the next 5 moves. And especially with spells that kind of have scaling like that, where it's like, oh, I could cast this weaker spell that's going to go off faster, and I'm going to make sure it happens before this guy acts. Or it's like, oh, I got time, we got all of our own party members acting for a bit, so I'm going to use this longer casting time spell and get it off. Really nice addition. Technically, it has existed in other versions of this game, but it was always a little bit more hidden away or just not quite as good visually. I think there's a cleanness in the presentation here that's just very nice. Same goes with like the quick info when you attack enemies. You get to see, your damage, chance of hitting, chance of things like getting counterattacked, and like what abilities the enemy has that might mess with how well your attack's going to resolve. Great stuff there. Fast forward, godsend in this game. Just because, like, look, I like the animations, and thankfully they're not weird like they were back on the PSP version. That game had this whole slowdown effect that was just awful. It's one of the main reasons a lot of people push not to play the PSP version. That is not present here at all. But on top of that, being able to fast forward, just look, man, I enjoy combat. I like the time it takes, but I also understand that tactics games battles take a while. It adds up.
Mhm.
And the fast forward in this, it's more than double speed. I don't know the actual speed, but it's like 3 or 4 times. And the original tactics, I think the how long to beat on that is like high 30 hours. I cleared this game in like I think just under 20. And part of that is because I actually was like, I know what I'm doing and I'm doing things with purpose a bit. But also like, oh, I cut out a significant amount of time by being able to just fast forward through a lot of animations in combat. I love seeing moves for like the first time, but there kind of hits a point where you're like, okay, I know what I'm doing. I want to like get through this fight. Like I just like, let's get to the next action. Let's get to the next thing. It's really nice too that it's basically just a button hold. So instead of like manually pressing like, oh, hit this button to enter fast forward mode, you just fast forward and release whenever you want, which is pretty
Mm,
smooth. It's very easy to just be like,
mm,
oh, I'm just going to speed through this action real quick. Maybe I want to see this one action resolve, so I'm going to like hold it. I had times where I would like fast forward as a character's moving, and then I would release when they do the move because I want to see the move animation happen. Uh, but yeah, real simple, clean implementation. It never feels wonky. Uh, nice update. Uh, Difficulty options is a new thing. Original game didn't have any. Now we've got 3 of them. I've not taken the time to play the game on like every single one. I just did a playthrough on what they kind of position as the normal, which is called Night. And originally, back with our PAX demo, I was worried Night was too easy. And it is easier at the start of the game. There's like a particularly notorious early on fight at a place called Dorder, which tend to kind of like, that was kind of the momentum stop for people when they would first play the game and like were learning how to play it. And that fight is much more manageable on Night. Like difficulty. Like it just, the opening of the game is definitely more forgiving. However, there absolutely are like kind of more towards the middle of the game. You're going to get those combats that punish you. Like there's absolutely are the difficulty spikes that still happen, a couple of which are very heavy. I'll talk about that a little later, but the difficulty is absolutely maintained on Night in a way that I was worried wouldn't be. It just seems like they softened up the opening chapter a bit more. So you're eased into that a little bit. Though there's still going to be some combats that catch you off guard. Uh,
how how often are the missions, are there like special circumstances that can cause you to like fail a mission? Like I remember in the demo, right? One of the fights you basically need to like protect and save and protect this character.
yeah,
Assuming that they die, you lose.
right.
Uh
So there's a
how
couple.
often do things like that happen?
Not very. It comes
Okay.
up, and honestly, most like there's 2 that kind of suck that happen in the game because the one you're thinking of, that one's not really a problem. Like the way everyone's positioned and the abilities that character has, you're
Oh, for
probably fine.
sure.
There,
I was just thinking because you were talking about difficulty and like
yeah,
and
there
things like that. I was just curious.
there's 2 particular combats where you have to make sure someone doesn't die, and those ones actually are a bit of a headache. Uh, some of the ones that took me the most retries were those situations because it was just like, man, I gotta deal with how far away this person is, and for some reason they choose to walk further away from me on their first turn, so now they're alone
Oh
over here, and
no.
that person has a very broken ability that does help like speed that combat up, but their ability is also a little too RNG based. So sometimes it like makes the combat very easy, and sometimes it just doesn't proc the right way, and it's like, cool, this is great. I'm trying to reach you. Uh, and I have a whole thing about tactics, combat, and gameplay I want to talk about kind of later, but I do want to focus on just like the remaster remake stuff for now, just for anyone that like
Hmm.
is coming from the original. Um, but yeah, so like night difficulty, I think for the most part does preserve a very similar feeling to the original. It's a little more forgiving, but I think if you went in there, you're not going to be like, oh wow, this is just easy street. There's going to be some combats that absolutely ruin your day unless you're just really on top of grinding and doing hilarious broken things, which is a large part of this game. Uh, yeah, and then that's all like the kind of really heavy changes. There's some other cool stuff. They've added, the new encyclopedia feature, which like some of this was kind of in the original, but now it's just organized in a much better and cleaner way with some cool new additions. They have the kind of world map with factions and what's happening as the story goes on, very similar to what was done in FF16, made by Creative Business Unit 3, so like that makes sense. Uh you're able to like get updates on everyone's like biographies and everything as the story goes on. So especially with how much this game leans into like political intrigue a little bit, it's sometimes nice to remember like, okay, wait, who's in charge of what kingdom, or why is that guy from this place doing stuff here? Sometimes they throw just like geographic terms at you, and if you're not really on top of paying attention, you're definitely gonna have a moment of like, wait, hold on, I gotta look this up again real quick. So that's a really handy feature for the storytelling in this game. Uh, there's one extremely minor change that they didn't have to do. And at the end of the day, I don't know if it really changes anything, but I appreciate it. This is very minor spoiler territory. Very, very minor. It's not even like a story thing. So Ramza has a unique base class, but it's still called Squire. Squire is like the class that everyone starts as, and it's just kind of like, you're probably not going to keep them as this. You want to change it to other things. And a really funny problem that would happen with Ramza is people playing the game with like out a guide or talking to people. Very good chance that you didn't notice that his Squire class is different and has like extra abilities and is like better. It's actually really good. Like it gets better as the game goes on. And by the last chapter, his like special version of Squire is just great. Like it's just like you should be using him as this class, or at least like investing in it. And there's people who just like never caught that in the older game if you were just playing it for the first time blind. Because yeah, why would I keep him as Squire? I got to make him, a knight or a ninja or whatever. In this game, it's still called a Squire at the start, but they do a whole thing in chapter 4 where like when they do his costume change, they're like, oh, now Squire is this new class called Knight Gallant. And it's like, oh, thank you for like actually giving it an interesting name and highlighting to people, hey, maybe pay attention to what this class does now. And it was also just, it always felt kind of silly and weird that like you'd have Ramza walking around as a class called Squire because it's the most basic whatever thing. And so now you have like, okay, here's an updated title, and here is like, this is his cool unique class thing. There's a couple other little changes like that as well. Small adjustments to like specific quests and stuff. I don't want to dive too deep into it, but like there's a side quest chain during the final chapter that you can now start earlier, and that opens up getting some like unique optional recruited characters. There is one cameo character in that mix. Most people probably know who it is, but if you don't, that'll be a nice surprise. They also simplified something with that character that was really stupid in the original game, where they have like special moves their job can do, but only if they have a specific weapon equipped. And you don't get that weapon outright in the original game. You had to like go through extra hoops to find out where to find it and like grab it. And it was just kind of like, man, I already went through everything to get this character. Why do I got to do this one last step? They got rid of that. He just joins with that weapon equipped right away, and you're good to go. So I appreciated that personally. It was just like, you already do enough to get this. And yeah, so that's all the changes, really, like the major ones that stand out to me for the remake. There's other stuff too, like obviously as part of the visuals, they kind of do some extra special effects for some boss fights and stuff. That's nice. As part of this game, you do have the option to play the original PlayStation version as well, slightly altered. I did not do a full playthrough on that, but I did start it up for the comparison at least. And like, yep, you definitely see the difference in visuals right away. I think it's actually a really good example of like I'm playing the remake and I'm like, man, this looks how I remember it. And then I play the original version on it and go, oh, right, that's what this really looked like. And it's still great. Like, I think it's a good look. For me, pixel aesthetic like that ages very well. And I think that game still holds its weight excellently. But you see the difference. The only big change with the original game that's present on Ivalice Chronicles is they are using the PSP script, which overall I'm for. The original script was just pretty rough. Some people don't like the kind of extra Shakespearean thy thou tone they add to it. That's never really bothered me, and I'm glad we got rid of a bunch of
Love
really weird.
that.
Yeah,
That
I
was
love
like
that.
one of my favorite. That was one of my favorite parts when I played. I was like, "Oh, we're going
Yeah.
Shakespearean with this. Like, let's
Well,
go."
that and like there were some really bizarre uh translation issues with like the original game. Like a one that came up a lot was breath for some reason got translated as like Bercelet. Like it wasn't even bracelet. It was like BRCLT to something, whatever. And so dragons would use fire Bercelet and assassins would use stop Bercelet. And it's like, what does that mean? It's supposed to be breath. And that's not the only example, but that's just always the one that stands up in my memory. So like, yeah, I think for playing the original, having the updated script, absolutely the right call. I'm happy they did that. One thing that people made a little bit of a stink about with the reveal of this is that it does not have any of the other PSP editions. That one added some extra plot, some extra side story stuff that helped flesh out some supporting characters a little bit more. And like I will say, I understand the goal of those changes. Like there are absolutely a couple optional character recruits you get where it's just sort of like this feels a little underbaked. Like I understand your concept, I understand your story, kind of, but like I don't really know what your full deal is, and now you've joined my party. And so like the PSP version adding more plot to those characters was kind of cool, but the actual execution of it wasn't great. So I don't really miss those all that much. The PSP version did also have like extra jobs, and that I miss a little bit more just because I like more options and like Dark Knight was kind of cool. So I do miss that a little bit in comparison. But all the extra content from PSP version, I'm fine being gone here. Which actually that does remind me of one thing I forgot about from the remake. More dialogue. Uh,
That's what I was going to ask you about.
yeah,
Yeah, I was
it's
about to
actually
say something.
yeah. So more dialogue, as far as I can tell, because I mean I don't have the full script memorized. It's not that they like added a ton more dialogue to pre-existing scenes. The real big addition is that when you have like named characters in your party, they are now going to have more dialogue mid-battle. Because the thing that would happen a lot in the PS1 version is like, oh, here's this like guest character with plot that joins your party, and they have dialogue during some of the fights you're in, and like that's cool. And then the moment that person fully joins your party and their plot arc is done, they're just like another unit. They have a special look and a special job, and like there's reasons to use them, but it's not like they have anything to add to the narrative from that point forward. Like it's just like, oh, their story's done. Now they're a unit. Enjoy. So one of the additions here now is like all those characters have way more added dialogue mid combat, like as the story goes on. Like a big example of this is Agrius. Agrius is a character that shows up in the prologue, and she has a very major plot arc in the second act. And once she joins near the end of the second act, that's kind of it. Like she doesn't really do much storyline wise moving forward. I used her in my party like the rest of the game, and like every major plot combat, she had stuff to add now. She would call characters out. She would have back and forth with some people. Just way more like, oh, you're still a person. Like,
You're
cool.
present. You're
Yeah,
present in this party. Yeah.
exactly. And it's like they may not be showing up in like major cutscenes or anything still, but now at least if you're using them in your party, you're going to be getting some of that extra characterization and dialogue with characters, which is really nice. That was something I appreciated. It was especially nice for like near the very end of the game because I did consciously choose to have a party built out entirely of plot characters by the end. And so I'm going into the final battle and it's like everyone gets an opportunity to kind of say something and chime in during this like closing battle. It's like, oh, that's like a nice. I like that. I like having that. So if you enjoy using plot-based characters, that's a very nice addition that I appreciate. Talking a bit more about like just the base game of Tactics itself and just replaying it in this remaster. it's very funny to me how this game has aged a little bit in my eyes because I absolutely love it. Like, great game, fantastic, still foundational. None of that changes. However, I absolutely kind of have a better understanding now of like what I like about that game and what it does well and what it doesn't do well. And I think the funniest revelation is the fact that Final Fantasy Tactics is not very good as a tactics game. Like, the raw just focus on being able to, like, paying attention to positioning and using moves and timing them right. It's all important to a degree, but like I would say compared to games that came before it, like Tactics Ogre, and games that have come after, like Triangle Strategy, kind of execute on that promise better. What Tactics does very, very well, and is part of why I absolutely ate it up as a kid, character building. Like, this is just a whole game about building up your characters, trying out different jobs, seeing what pieces go together, and learning what hilariously powerful builds you can make. And the game 100% assumes you're doing this, because there are some combats in this game. The end of Act 3 in particular is a very notorious fight for a lot of people. I won't get into why, but it's a headache of a fight. And it's not a fight that like you're going to get better at because you learned how to use your like tactical acumen better. It's a fight you're going to get better at because you learned how to make a stupid build for a character and use it for that fight. Like, that's the answer. That's the solution. Because if you haven't figured out how to make a really crazy build for that character, you're literally going to die in like the first round. Like, that's just what's going to happen. You're not even going to act. Like, it's just, here you go. This is the Stonewall part of the game. Like, this is a part of the game that would soft lock people back on PS1 because they would save before the fight, and if they weren't using multiple save points, they're now just stuck there, and there's nothing they can do about it. It's a very headachy part of the game, and they kept it in the remake. Like, they didn't change that. They didn't like give you more characters in that fight. They didn't like change how it works. It is still just like, oh, have you not figured out making a broken build yet? Well, figure it out now, because you're not going to get through this fight otherwise. Yeah, very interesting to me how the difficulty in that game gets very swingy in the later parts, because like it does feel fairly balanced at the start, and then you kind of hit a moment where it's like, okay, look, you're just going to steamroll regular enemies, and then there's going to be maps that are going to anger you deeply despite the fact that you've figured some things out, because if you're not bringing the right build or having the right exploit ready for this fight, you're just going to get wrecked. Like, enjoy. Like, that's what's going to happen right now. It is such
I
a
don't, I don't know how I feel about the words that you're saying right now.
No, I know. It's something that I think I got very used to growing up, because it was just like it felt so good figuring out how to get past that fight. But I understand how it's a headache, and I do find it interesting they did not change it in the remake. There's a couple specific fights in this game that I thought were maybe going to get overhauled because of like how they were kind of a stonewall to progression in the original, and they did not. And I don't know if I like better or not that they didn't. Like, I think there is a degree of like, I respect the artistic vision that you want this fight to just be the jerk that it is. But at the same time, I'm kind of surprised with, I feel like generally speaking, remakes, remasters, etc., tend to emphasize trying to make games a little bit easier and smoothing out the difficulty curve, which this game does to an extent with like giving the difficulty options. And look, I haven't tried the game on the Squire difficulty. These fights might not be nearly as much of a headache on that, but at least playing on Night, no, you still have to like figure your stuff out to get through them. So yeah, it's very interesting that. I'm not going to say that tactical skill doesn't matter, but just character building matters so much more. Like, that really is, I think, the big thing that gets fun in this game is like exploring all the different classes and seeing how you can mishmash together. Because when you make your character, you have different abilities where it's like, oh, you have your primary ability based on the job you currently are. You can equip a secondary ability that comes from any other classes you've trained as. You've got a reaction ability that's like either a counter or some kind of defensive maneuver. A support ability that's just some kind of cool passive. Maybe it lets you do things like dual wield or equip stuff you normally couldn't. Maybe it gives you some kind of passive bonus like making magic attack or magic defense better. And then a movement ability, which is usually like, oh, you can move farther, or you can fly through the air, you can teleport, you gain health when you move, whatever. And so learning how to like assemble these abilities together after leveling characters up, is really the core fun to me in this game, as far as the gameplay side at least.
Yeah, I mean, like, listen, I had an absolute blast with Tactics when I played it. And so I don't it there was like a I don't want to go too far to say a casualness about it,
Mhm.
but it just felt very approachable.
Yeah, which is not
And
what I would
so
think people would say about the original parts of it, at least.
okay, interesting. And so I'm curious, but like we didn't get to like play from the beginning of the game, which was part of the game that we played, to that point in the game. Like we
Sure.
just got jumped.
Yeah.
So I don't know about like what those systems look like when it comes to your character building and all
Mhm.
that stuff. So I'm definitely like curious to see how that all plays out, but like uh it all sounds really fun and good, and I'm excited to like finally play this game like when I get the chance to. Really like the only thing that's stopping me is that there's so many games coming out and I need to play like
Yeah.
other
No, the
things.
next like
Um
40-ish days are ridiculous. Like we're already started it. Like I feel like starting with
oh, 100%.
yeah,
Like
like
I would argue it happened like weeks ago. Like cuz I still haven't played Lost Soul Aside.
yeah.
And
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 that was on your list for a while.
for a decade,
Yeah.
yeah, and I literally haven't played it yet simply because I have not had the time to play it.
Yeah.
So yeah, I think that there's that I'm really looking forward to playing it. You played it on Switch. We didn't clarify that.
Yes, I did play it
So
specifically on Switch too. Not on a
yeah,
regular Switch. Yeah, looked and ran great. No real complaints. I mean, this isn't a game that I would have expected like crazy demand from because like while it is prettied up, it is still based on PS1. They've just like again upped the pixel density and cleaned it up quite a bit, but not. I don't know how it runs on regular Switch. We were supplied with specifically a Switch 2 code, so it was just playing it on that. But absolutely valid, great looking way to play. No complaints from me.
sweet, sweet. Um, yeah, I mean, like, I don't have much to really say or ask because um I've gotten to go hands on with it myself, and a lot of the stuff that you're you basically like covered everything. You basically covered everything.
Tried to.
So yeah. Um but I'm definitely excited for it. Is there anything else that you wanted to mention about it?
Oh, what one thing I did forget to mention that's a part of the remake treatment. Going back to the idea of like character builds and learning how to do different like build combinations. They did add like a build preset option now. So you can basically for a character you can be like, "Oh, hey, here's like build 1, here's build 2, here's build 3." And you can swap between those quickly. So, for instance, maybe like I was building up Ramza as a mage a lot early on because I wanted to help grow some of his stats that are magic related. But then I went back to a lot of physical classes. So it's like, oh, I have one set that's my mage Ramza build where he's a summoner with like these abilities and stuff that makes him better at magic casting with this gear. But then I have set 2 where it's like, oh, here's me building him up as a ninja using martial arts and being able to punch enemies for stupid amounts of damage. So here's that build. And then I ended up not really ever using the third one, but like you have 3 slots to work with. So especially for those characters you're using over time and you kind of figure out multiple builds to make with, that's a really handy feature.
Sweet. And one of the things that we talked about during the preview that we thought wasn't in the game that is an auto battle feature. Which
Yes.
apparently was in the original.
Yeah, yeah. It's one of the commands at the bottom.
So
It's weird because you're not doing auto battle like globally, you do it on a per character basis. So you'll be like, hey, this character
yeah,
on your turn, I just want to turn auto battle on for you, and here's the strategy to use. And then you kind of wait till your next turn as them if you want to like turn that off or let like keep going, basically. Yeah, it's interesting. It's
yeah,
not like a pure auto
because
battle mode you can leave aside, but there is an option for it.
yeah, because you have like fights where it's not like a part of the main story and
Oh yeah,
you're traveling or something like that. So
yeah.
that's
That is
perfect for me where it's just like auto battle on everything and
Yeah,
go.
and that is actually another change I forgot to mention. They got rid of random encounters like that. Now, well, kind of. You can get a random encounter, but you can choose to just not do it now if you don't want to. And you can also just manually start an encounter if you want. So you can just hang out on a single
Mhm.
tile and just be like, "Hey, I just want to keep doing battles here." Which, again, for how build focused this game is, I did that quite a bit because it was just like, "Hey, I'm trying to just like get Ramza to unlock this class so I can get this ability, and then I'm gonna grind up to unlock that ability." And so I definitely did that quite a few times where it's just like, here's the one character I'm about to level up a lot.
Yeah, sweet. Uh, well, that's our review for Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. Uh, the game is coming out on September 30th on PlayStation 5, Xbox Series consoles, Switch and Switch 2, as well as PC via Steam. Um, one of the things that's worth noting is that there is no physical release for Xbox. So if you were like me that likes to get physicals on Xbox for JRPGs, Switch and PlayStation are your options there.
Yeah, and worth
Um,
clarifying there too. For Switch, there's only a regular Switch physical edition, but as part of that, you are able to do a free upgrade to the Switch 2 one. So you still have to rely on the
correct.
cart, but honestly, I take that over having to buy a Switch 2 digital only cart, whatever thing, game key card.
Hmm. Hmm.
Much happier they went
Exactly.
this route for this game. So,
And the game is going to be 49.99, so cheaper than your average game, which is dope.
and you get two games
Uh,
basically. It's just same one, but different versions of it.
no, I really love that, and that's something that I hope that more just remasters do down the line. Because I am curious about the original, and I definitely like. I'm still gonna play the original for or the new first, but if I do a replay, 100% gonna try out the original. Um,
Yeah.
so well, everybody, thank you so much for listening to our review on Final Fantasy Tactics: The Ivalice Chronicles. You can follow me on socials at Cam Final Mix. You can follow Kevin on socials at Kevin Kenson. Thank you so much for listening, and until next time, we'll catch you later.
Later.